All right, y'all. I got my shoulders loose here. The gloves are off. I'm going to break down some myths around zone two cardio. And so I'm going to be cut straight to it. The most popular one up front, which is if I'm in this fat burning zone while I'm doing cardio, then I should be burning body fat. And so I'm just going to layer on more and more and more cardio because I should see results and just get leaner and leaner and leaner. I understand where you're coming from. And like that makes logical sense. Okay, let's think about it. Burning fat as fuel, body fat stores fat. Yep, they have to be correlated. Honestly, I wish that was the case. Oh, God, that would feel so good because it would make things so easy. And unfortunately, here's the reality burning fat as fuel, it's physiology. Losing body fat, that's math. It comes down to being in a caloric deficit. And so within our body, what's going on? There are two different systems. They are running at the same time and all the time, 24/7. So system one is going to be burning fat, carbs, protein, sometimes as fuel. System two is going to be storing fat, carbs, and protein as body fat. So whether we are losing fat or gaining fat or maintaining, it all comes down to the ratio and rate at which one system is working in relation to the other. And so if we're in a caloric surplus and we're incorporating zone two because we think that, okay, well, we're using fat as fuel, we have to be burning fat. But if you're in a caloric surplus, that means that you're not using carbs as fuel. And if I'm a carbohydrate, I'm like, oh, fat's taking care of that energy source. I don't really have to do anything. So I'm just going to chill here, maybe hibernate for a little bit, get stored as fat. And then you kind of flip that where you utilize exercise where carbs are the main source of fuel. Well, the leftover fats are thinking the same exact thing, and they're just going to hibernate and get stored as fat. And so the determining factor of actually losing stored body fat, it all comes down to just total energy balance. So it doesn't actually matter whether you're using carbs as fuel or fat as fuel. So I'm going to give you this analogy right here. It's the asset analogy. And you can think of liquid assets as burning fat as fuel. So readily available cash on hand to buy whatever you need, AKA energy. Now, illiquid assets such as real estate or stored body fat, you can't tap into those instantly. So it takes time. It also takes the right market conditions, AKA caloric deficit, to actually start cashing out. And so, okay, I know what you may be thinking here. I came up with this plan. I'm going to incorporate a high intensity cardio routine where I'm only burning carbs as fuel. And I got the secret. I'm going to eat a super low fat diet. So if I'm burning carbs and I don't have the necessary fat to be stored as body fat, where's my body going to pull? Where's it going to store fat from? That is a very good thought process, but the research says otherwise. So I've done the back end research for you. I've looked into all the papers and they basically compare two different groups together. So first group is going to be a high fat, low carb diet. Second group is going to be a low fat, high carb diet. Now, both groups, calories are equated, protein is equated, fiber is equated. So those are the only two variables that are different, and they're engaging in a resistance training program. Now, what did the results say? No difference in body fat loss. And so the reason for that is because it all comes down to a caloric deficit. And so why incorporate zone two? Well, here's the benefit from it. Burning fat is an efficient source of fuel, and it is sustainable for the long term because there's not a whole lot of back end consequence to it. But if we cut our carbs too low, then we're going to struggle with a high intensity training program because we've lost the quickest source of energy. So it doesn't really make sense to do one extreme diet over the other just because we think that we're biohacking our system and burning more fat. It doesn't work that way. It all comes down to caloric deficit. And so bottom line of zone two, one, it improves metabolic flexibility. So that is your ability to tap into carbs or fat as fuel at the right times to keep the energy or stress cost low. It also enhances efficiency, recovery, longevity, and it really teaches your body to use energy smarter, not harder. And then actual body fat loss, it just comes from a consistent caloric deficit. So there's no way around that. That is the myth right there. So let's dive into the next one. Moving on to myth number 2. If I just restructure my workout to where, I'm incorporating faster paces, more circuits, maybe lighter weights, but more reps, then I'm getting the same exact benefit that I would from a separate zone 2 session. And I'm busy. Like I want to be very efficient with my time. I want to maximize my workouts. And with that structure, I'm getting my heart rate elevated. So cardio benefits. And because I'm lifting weights, I'm getting strong. So, hey, I'm killing two birds with one stone, right? Well, I understand where you're coming from. And you're right. That type of workout, it does feel like cardio because your heart rate is increasing. But the reality is, you're not getting the same physiological adaptation. I've gone through this myself where I'll finish a 60-minute session in the gym. I'll look at my watch and be like, hey, my average heart rate for that 60 minutes was 130, 135. So that's prime zone 2 range. I must be getting the same exact benefits, right? Well, then I'll dive into my actual workout and I'll see that's not the full story. What I'll notice is that there's this fluctuation between my heart rate spiking and then rebounding. So during the 10, 20 seconds that I'm actually doing a working set, it'll spike 150, 160, sometimes even 170. Like those freaking Bulgarian split squats, they are the worst, but I love them afterwards. And then it'll rebound after to 80, 90 beats per minute. Now, even if you're not resting for a minute or two and you're incorporating the circuit type style stuff, you're still getting that same fluctuation. It's spiking while you're doing the exercise and then coming back down when you're transitioning. So what's different about zone 2? Well, zone 2 incorporates continuous rhythmic movement that you're doing for 30 plus minutes and incorporates large muscle groups. But really the main benefit of zone 2 is it elevates your heart rate and keeps it steady at that range. And so what that does is it actually promotes the adaptations in better stroke volume, better capillary density, better mitochondrial efficiency. And so if you use sessions to try to get strong and build endurance in the same session, it's pretty inefficient. It's almost like you're trying to chase two different rabbits at the same time and you end up catching none. So lifting lightweight, faster paces, those types of workouts, it's too light to actually build strength, but it's also too inconsistent to build endurance. So yes, you burn energy, you burn calories, but you don't get that deep adaptation in either of those systems. So a better strategy would actually be to separate it and specialize. What is your goal? Is it to build strength, power, better bone density? Hammer strength, get strong. Is it to build capacity, efficiency, faster recovery? Then zone 2, that's your unlock right there. And so the benefit of actually keeping them separate and training each system is that it improves your energy efficiency. So you're able to do more work with less fatigue, speeds up the recovery between training days. And so you're actually able to train harder on the next session, accumulate more volume, more intensity, which builds more muscle. And it also enhances, both longevity and performance, where that's the true definition of efficiency. So efficiency isn't from doing everything at once. It's doing the right thing at the right time. So if you want the best return on your training time, separate your goals so that each system adapts faster. Strength is going to be your horsepower, your kick. Cardio is going to build the engine that lasts and allows you to use it longer. Myth number 3 here. This one honestly might be one of my favorites because it has gotten so much popularity, so much traction online. And I'm starting to notice this trend as far as why things are becoming popular, but they're really myths. And so I'll get right into it. I can get the same aerobic benefits from just sitting in the sauna as I can doing zone two cardio because my heart rate's in the same range. Kind of goes back into the last myth we talked about where you're incorporating strength training for cardio. Sounds logical. Your head's in the right place, same heart rate, same results. Well, unfortunately, physiology just doesn't work that way. And so your heart rate is just a response. Cardio is the stimulus, but your heart rate as a response can respond to a lot of different things. Now, I will say, like a stressful stimulus, AKA cardio, is necessary to create adaptation. And the heart rate response from the sauna is enough to create an adaptation, but it's not the same. So, zone two is defined by oxygen consumption, VO2. It's not just a number on your watch. When you're in the sauna, your VO2 barely moves because you barely move. So, that higher heart rate that you see, it's simply an anticipatory mechanism that your body uses to drive blood flow to the skin, to dump heat, and to cool it down. Because if it doesn't, then that heat is going to continue traveling inward. And once it reaches your core temperature and it starts raising, then that could be bad news bears. And you could risk the potential of heat stroke if your core temperature rises too much. That's what the heart rate increase is actually signaling. It's just trying to dump heat. Now, if you want to see the same benefits of, muscular capacity, your ability to recover faster so you could push it hard the next session, or you want to be, metabolically flexible where you can efficiently switch between the fuel sources that you use for energy, that's where cardio comes into play, to where your muscles are just going through this repetitive stretch shortening cycle. Now, I will say the sauna is not useless. It is a great support tool, especially if you're training for a race. So it can expand plasma volume, and then also improve your heat tolerance, which helps boost your VO2 max. But that is only if you do it directly after an endurance session. So if you want to use the sauna as a true performance enhancer, what I would do is think about what date your race is and then start using the sauna 3 weeks before that race. Start with 20 minutes, gradually build up to 30. The guardrail here should be calling time once your heart rate gets to about 60, 65% of your max. So, bottom line for this one, heat raises your heart rate. Work, AKA cardio, is going to raise your oxygen consumption. Sauna is going to build heat tolerance. Zone two is going to build muscular capacity. So use both in the right times, but just don't confuse a response to a stimulus. All right, y'all. That's all I got. I'm done. If there's anything else that comes to mind, that you have either a question about or, you're not sure if it's true or not, like drop a comment below. I'd be happy to dive into it and answer it with some context. And so if I were to summarize this video, two main points that, you should remember. One, burning fat as fuel does not equal burning body fat. And then two, heart rate is not the sole determining factor of whether you're in zone two or whether you're burning fat or not. So that's all I got from you. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see each other soon. Take care.